Max likes this very much.
Welcome to
Coffee with Toffees.
Let's do this.
Good morning and welcome back to Coffee with Toffees, guys. My name is Toffees, bringing you your morning show here live at this December 5th, 7:12 a.m. A bit earlier than usual is probably going to be our new time going forward. If you like the show, if you like what I do, you can follow me at Toffees_Dota2. Big plugs for today. Keep in mind there's a chat group over on Steam. You can join it through the Dota client. It's Coffee with Toffees. It's coffee.w/Toffees. And get in there, chat with me, play with me, do whatever you want to do. If you want to support the show and help us keep going, you go to patreon.com/Toffees. Choose to support us through kind words, t-shirt purchases, or donations, your call. And that's also the location where you can choose to support the brand new Dota FM. So again, if you want to see the launch of Dota FM take off, there's different donation options over on the site at patreon.com/Toffees. That said, Gorgon the Wonder Cow was supposed to join us again today, and it looks like he is sleeping in, so we're going to have to remove him from the docket in punishment for his misdeeds. And I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick here. Boom. Look at that. Just like that, he's gone. So, just me and you guys today. And I will tell you this, it's going to be another short, sweet show because a lot of LANs have been going on. DreamHack just wrapped up, as you know. Summit's going on right now. We'll talk about that shortly. What that means is most of the contacts that we have are the interviews are traveling or working or between the two, so there's not a lot of interviews floating around. There's also not a lot of new news other than those tournaments as they happen. So we've got the wrap-ups for you. We got the Join Dota Award coverage. We got some pro news. We got some tournament roundup. And then obviously I'll pick the game of the day as we always do for you to look at, but it should be short and sweet. So let's jump straight off with the news. First thing up, JD Awards continue. Excuse me. And the first thing up on the dock to talk about is the nominations for the Best Support Duo were just launched. And I think this is a pretty good list of the best supports out there. We've got, basically it goes, Best Support Duo nominees are EGM and Ake, Fenrir and FY. Those are the guys from Vici Gaming, EGM and Ake, obviously. I shouldn't say obviously since things have changed, but this is the Alliance support team. Big Daddy and Puppy off of Team Secret. Banana and Sanshang off of Newbie. Zai and PPD off of Evil Geniuses. Lanham and MMY or XII off of Team DK. I guess he's got a little bit of that puppy no-tail thing going on as well with his name now. Chuan and Faith going from Invictus Gaming. Aoi 2000 and Piladai from Cloud9, Net and Extinct from Titan, Jotum and Yol from Virtus Pro, Vanscore and Always Wanna Fly from Team Empire, and Bulba and Waytu from Team Liquid. So those are the top support duos for you to vote for if you want to say who got the win. It's like our Academy Awards here, right? Good nominees for the most part. There's a couple that I don't think will compete. I think the Team Liquid's probably gonna have a hard time getting too many votes after just the fall apart after TI. So we'll see how that goes. Right now, honestly, I think what we're gonna see is Big Daddy Puppy from Team Secret, PPD and Zai have been very, very strong lately together from Evil Geniuses. The Newbie Banana Sanshang combo and the VG Fenrir and FY have just been phenomenal. So good chance it'll be those guys. It looks like Gorgon the Wonder Cow is stopping in, so let's answer the call and see what he's got going on. Good morning, Gorgon. Are you there, sir?
I'm here. Sorry, I wasn't sure if we were...
oh, we're live. We're in the middle of the show. Welcome.
Oh, I thought we had said 7:30 this morning rather than 7 o'clock. So, you know.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm gonna
here.
I'm gonna put your picture back up. Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh my goodness, Gorgon's here!" Yeah.
Special guest Gorgon 4 minutes before the show ends. Apparently. What's going on? What are we covering?
We're actually talking about the Join Dota Awards that we just started. So I went through all of the best support duo combos that were listed over on their website. I was just saying that I think that Team Secret and Evil Geniuses, VG and Newbie are probably the most likely for me to take the win home. Though I think I was going to say, I don't think it's fair to overlook like the EGM Ake combo just because of the fact that maybe they're not playing together in the same capacity anymore or at the same level. What is your favorite off of that list?
Well, that was a really hard list. This is one of the lists that I was a big part of constructing. And with the Team Secret combination between Big Daddy and Puppy, that was a really difficult choice for us to make whether or not we were going to include that, because they've only been playing together for a couple of months now. This is the best of the year. But they've just made such an impact on the scene that for me it's really difficult. I would have to say between for me, it's going to be between Fenrir 5, Big Daddy and Puppy, or Zion PPD. Off of that list. But that was a very, very difficult list to construct.
So for those of you who don't know, Gorgon here works for Join Dota. He actually is a columnist, or I think they have some cool fancy name for you. What is it again?
Elder Staff, I think is what I'm being
Elder
called. They just keep up making up things to call me.
They make their staff sound more and more like you guys are playing D&D every year, every time I talk to you. It's like you used to be staff, but now you're Elder Staff.
Next time I'm going to be Dungeon Master X.
Dungeon Master X of Joy Dota columns. So that's the support lineup. Let's talk a little bit about the best mid-player lineup, which I think is a really good list and is going to be really tough to vote for. So the best mid-players that are listed on the nominations are TZ from Evil Geniuses, Smash from Not Today, S4 from Team Secret, Mushi from Team DK, former, as he is, I believe, technically retired at this point, Super from VG Gaming, Hani from Fnatic, who we just found out last Wednesday when we talked, is no longer with Fnatic, but was, Resolution for Team Empire. How do you say Quofa's name?
Koikba?
Koifa, that's it. I always get the key wrong at the start. From Team Tinker, we've got Dendi from Na'Vi, Mu from Newbie, Ferrari 430 from Invictus, and Fatah from Cloud9. So those are your mid nominees. Do you have a favorite on that list?
I do just want to throw a special shout out to Singh as well. He was on the original list, which was originally truncated to 10. And it's just one of those things that we can't list everybody who honestly deserves to be mentioned.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It powers out of my control when I proposed that list. Took him away. For me, I'm not a big EG fanboy. And I think EG is going to take home a lot of things just on the momentum of how they've done this year. But honestly, I feel like Arteezy has redefined mid. In combination with his team's draft sense and the fact that he is running a one-position mid in a very unique decision with his team, he was a big part of a lot of trends that we saw this year with the more stationary mids, the more farming-centric mids. Your Naga Siren was first played by Arteezy in the mid lane in a professional capacity before EG, actually, but EG popularized it. Heroes like Death Prophet and even Razor to some extent became popular largely out of the impact that Arteezy made. And he is also, by the way, this year, he has earned the highest average GPM for a career player out of any player in Dota history. So for me, it's got to be Arteezy.
So that's Dota, period, not just Dota 2.
It's Dota that we have stats.
That we've tracked.
We don't have stats for professional Dota 1, or not a lot of them, because there wasn't the data farming tools built into Warcraft that there are into Warcraft or into Dota 2.
Either way, Dota 2's been tracking for a long time, so that's a pretty impressive stat. I think you're right. Now, here's my question for you, as somebody who follows the scene very closely in an analytical side of things. EG's also been sort of on the forefront of switching up the way that they do lineups, not having static positions. It's not uncommon to see Arteezy now move to the one position on a lane and have Fear working in the middle. Do you think that these lists are going to be relevant in a year or two, or do you think all of these teams are going to be moving cores around? You're going to have cores and supports, and maybe next year or the year after we're going to see support duo of the year and cores of the year.
So we actually constructed this list 5 ways, basically. So we did the work for 5 potential lists for the players and released one of them. We did the work for trying to put out a Best Core of the Year and Best Support of the Year award for just the 2 categories. And that, the cores would have included active offlaners, mids, and side lane carries.
Gotcha.
We constructed lists for best support of the year, best offlane of the year, best side lane carry of the year, best mid of the year. And then we constructed the lists as they are now: best support duo, best mid. There'll be a best side lane carry and a best offlane coming out as well. And then we also constructed a list for best 1 position, best 2 position, best 3 position, best 4 or 5 position. Which obviously, because RTZ and a couple of others are sometimes running that carry position, that 1 position as it's normally called, out of not the safe lane carry lane, safe lane carry position anymore, or location, I guess I should say. It's making it increasingly difficult to categorize these guys into a really hard-lined, very direct way.
Yeah.
And teams like Team Secret, who have shown a tremendous amount of success in a very short period of time, they do something that I don't think very many teams in the world do. Certainly no teams in the top, like 2 or 3. They disperse their farm much more evenly in the beginning of the game. I've actually run economics models on them for every period in the game, and between them, BG and EG, they distribute their farm significantly more evenly for the first about 10 minutes, and including giving Big Daddy and Puppy last hits on the early kills much more.
I was going to say, yeah, they're one of those teams that advocates, and I think they've, as players, talked about it for a while, last hits early on to supports and getting supports into the game early, which makes sense to a certain capacity. I don't know if you follow football or not, but I sort of equate the changes that we're seeing from EG as like the migration that the NFL made to a 2 running back system a couple years ago, and the changes in Secret to an emergence of, say, a West Coast offense. Just 2 totally genre-bending additions to the game that, after it happened in the NFL and the NCAA, every team had to either adopt or at least study and prepare to deal with those 2 new offense style of setups. Do you think that this is the future of Dota, that we're going to start to see so many differences in strategy and positioning? Or do you think we'll start to kind of return to that old static 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Well, I've never liked the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 personally, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 it specifically implies farm priority, and in doing so, it specifically implies that at every stage in the game there's the same farm priority, and I don't think that that's really accurate. And I think that teams like Team Secret are demonstrating that with their great success. Yes, you can have a static all game long farm priority, but I do think, and I've long been a proponent of getting supports out some farm early, getting your mid-game carry some farm early, and having your late-game carry kind of start his show maybe 5 minutes into the game when he really hits the ground, and having some 4 protect 1 space being opened up. Honestly, though, I think if we were talking a year ago, we would have had the same exact conversation about very, very defensive mids like the Outworld Devourer and the Troll Warlord, and very, very strong team fight, creating this impossible 4 protect 1 to handle. The game just evolves over time. And
it does.
It's always been doing that.
I mean, what was it? 4 months ago, Death Ball was the answer to everything.
Yeah.
And we adjusted and we changed it. Just like in the NFL, the West Coast offense doesn't stand anymore because everybody's prepared for it. So, great point. Now let's keep moving through this, because there's 2 more that just came out on the JDL, or Join Dota, nominations. And I will run through those, and I have some strong feelings about them, so I'm excited to talk to you about it. First list up is Casters of the Year. I think that this one's pretty right. The nominees are LD from Beyond the Summit, Tralf the Freelancer, I think we all know who he is, Toby Wan from Feeks for You Gaming, or JD, the sub company, Draskell from GD Studios, Shivar, who does technically work as a freelancer, though she's pretty much everywhere all the time, The Capitalist, who's part of Join Dota Freaks for You Gaming, AC, who works for Good Game Agency, Merlani, who's from Beyond the Summit, Luminous, GD Studios, and Cinderin out of Dota Cinema. So, a couple of things. I think this is a great list. This is probably all the top casters and co-casters as far as professional casters go. We don't have any pros on this list, maybe some X's, but at the end of the day, these are the guys who take the reins. I think an interesting addition to it is Cinderin coming out of the Dota Cinema slot, and that is due in large part to the XMG Captains draft. He's been showing up a lot more in casting positions and has been doing a very good job of it. So I think that that's one of those sort of sneaker picks for me that kind of caught me off guard when it popped up. In the same wheelhouse, I guess I should say, is like AC and Toby. But I think that he deserves to be there. I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, this is a list that I didn't have as much to do with in terms of the personalities being put on it. I encourage the top brass to take the Freaks for You personalities off of these lists, just because it seems like a conflict of interest to me to be nominating your own people. Just like in the community people, I encouraged them to make sure that our writers weren't being nominated as well. I would have probably taken Toby Wan and Capitalist off this list and put Kodal Guy on, and probably also have put on Zyori for voting.
Right.
That being said, out of the people on this list, I would, vote for the Capitalist. I think that he stepped into a very difficult position to fill that second caster slot in a very busy studio and has done an extremely good job with it. So, it's kind of a toss-up one.
It is, and it's one of those things, and I guess when I look at the list, I think this to myself. Toby and Cap, they deserve to be there. They're some of the hardest working guys in Dota. And it comes down to, I want to see people on these lists who work their butts off, right? Zyori casts a stupid amount. Kodal Guy loves casting so much that he left everything in New York, moved to BTS for a couple of months to help them cover their needs, moved back, like he's all over the place. The guy's one of the hardest working casters in the business right now. You've got Mott, who's literally always on doing something. We've got What Is Hip, who's always around getting some casts going on. So there are names that were left off of this that was surprising to me. When you compare it to, I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but there's names on the list who don't cast a lot or do 1 or 2 tournaments and that's it for the year. And I think that can get frustrating. I feel my heart goes out to some of these guys who are busting every single day that got left off of the list. But for the most part, I think that's a very accurate list. The next one is one that I want to talk about, and that's Community Figure of the Year. So I'm going to go over the list and tell you if they're freelance or who they work for, and then I'm going to vent a little bit, and unfortunately Gorgon gets to be the recipient of that. So the nominees for this one is 2GD from GD Studios, that's James Harding, K-Pop from Beyond the Summit, Pyrian Flax is a freelancer but is everywhere, has been for a while, Statsman, who I didn't actually realize that was his tag name, I just always called him Bruno, from GD and Twitch, Suns Fan from Dota Cinema, Sir Action Slacks, freelance, Soe, I should say, from Freaks for You Gaming, Wagamama, who is the streamer that we've all come to know and love, Cyborg Matt from On Gamers, and Vikram from Reddit. So I think some of these are really good. A little bit frustrating, though, because, I don't know, when I read the topic, and this is the topic I was the most excited about. We love the pros, I love voting for them, but we vote for them all the time, right? Like, every single time that we get a compendium, we decide who our MVPs are. We never talk about favorite community members. We never get a chance to tell the guys over on the side of Valve and for tournaments who we love. So that's what I was really looking forward to. And now I want to preface and say I in no way, shape, or form deserve to be on this list and don't want to be, but there are people out there like the guys from Defense of the Patients, Rust and Stuffs with his new feature. There's a lot of guys who are creating some really good content that I think, What Is Hip has become more of a community member, I think, almost than a caster studio guy lately. There's a lot of really good community members that I feel like were left off this list and were replaced by studio employees. And I don't know. I guess to me, I want these community members like Sir Action Slacks, who's making a ton of content and working his little butt off to get recognized, to get seen. He's not paid a salary by a studio. He's surviving on the goodwill and love of the community, and that's the kind of person I want to see put up here for nomination.
Yeah, I think actually Sir Action Slacks is probably surviving on that Applebee's money or whatever it is that he's
but
doing
yeah, that's
these
exactly
days.
it.
But yeah, bear in mind, Join Dota is a German company. Mm-hmm. They, for the large part, are going to nominate people for their audience. This is essentially a popularity contest. Mm-hmm. And they're going to nominate people that everybody within their audience, which is largely European, is going to recognize. And the European audience, to a certain degree, might recognize like the guys like .p, which, by the way, I have a new segment on .p. I love those guys. I'm a regular contributor to their show.
Yeah, but you told me about that. How many downloads are they getting on their podcast?
I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that or not.
Okay.
They're doing fairly well for themselves, and they're growing. And if you aren't listening to their show, you really should be.
Agree with that. And but the point is, they have some huge numbers, and we won't talk about details. You're right. That's their thing to disclose. But at the end of the day, they're well recognized enough. and I think deserve more recognition. I guess that's where my frustration lies.
Yeah.
Sir Action Slacks is on here. That's great. Everyone, I would love for you to go over there
should vote for him.
and vote for
just
Sir
flat
Action
out,
Slacks.
Let's just say that right now, because
I
for
will.
me, it's like Sir Action Slacks, Sun Safan, Wagamama, and Vikram. Right? Those are really the four on here that are.
I can say period. You could say period Flax too.
Yeah, you could. I
doesn't
think that
make-
you could say that a lot more.
Yeah.
A year and a half ago.
Yeah, he doesn't make a lot of
now
content
he's
anymore.
he's got studios that he works with on major tournaments. He's got his own voice pack in Dota. Like, this is a guy who's like the zenith of a community member who hits it big, right? And so I don't really know that for community member of the year, somebody who worked with the community and encapsulated the soul of that community over the course of a year, I don't know that I would really consider him a viable nominee, not because he's not a strong provider for the community, but because he's doing it from a different station at this point.
Right. I think the real struggle that we start to see when we look at the nominations is I love K-pop, I love Soi's show, I think Too Good's great, Bruno's a phenomenal host and a ton of fun, but these guys are getting pretty big cuts out of the studios and have huge budgets to make their stuff, and we love them to death, but I really want to see some new folks added to the list. I guess the moral of the story at the end of the day.
Yeah, I don't know why Toby and Cap made it on the casters list, but Nahas didn't make it on the community member list. When Nahas is
that's a great point.
Dota,
everybody knows
doesn't
Nahas.
make money with his Dota stuff. He is this is a hobby for him. He is a community member.
Right.
He goes on Reddit as much as he hates Reddit. He goes on there and regularly interacts with people and answers questions. He does a ton of casting and he does a ton of stats.
Yeah.
He mentors just about every stats person in the scene directly. He works very closely with the guy from that Dota, Martin, to make sure that Dota is up and running as well. But I think Nahas contributes a tremendous amount to the scene, and people don't even realize how much that he actually does to keep the scene running.
Do you know if there's
he doesn't make it on?
is there a stats category on the list coming up?
As far as I know, there's not, but I haven't actually. And if there were, K-pop would be on there, right? And
that's what I figured, because and you could also argue somebody like, say, Phage, who's been around for about, I'd say, 7 months or so now, launched a company that is showing up in the standard deviants in almost every single major tournament that doesn't have a full-time staffer. That, those are pretty big contributions, and I guess that's the moral of the story in this category: is go there. Vote for Sir Action Slacks. I would say vote for Wagamama. The guys that we talked about who are real community members. Wagamama is somebody who I think he's going to DreamHacks because he's so popular for his community stream. So he's somebody who's become a huge name on the scene because of the content that he puts out, and I love that and support that. So get out there, check it out. Definitely Nahas. Everybody should tweet at Nahas and say, hey, you should have been nominated. Make him feel better about life. But no, I made a joke yesterday. I sent him a message because Summit was going, and Nahas traditionally is a joined Dota stat man, and he was doing stats over Twitter and sending them to Zyori, who was talking about them on stream. And I was like, only you, Nahas, could do a stats from Twitter for 80,000 live viewers while you're sitting at home.
I mean, that's how he got started, right? He got started watching Shiver and pumping the stats into the Twitch chat. And Shiver noticed him because he came by so often and said, hey, can you just do this, hit F9 or F10 or whatever it is, and do it in game. And, he just loves the game, and he really loves analyzing it and helping other people understand it in terms of a numerical, hard data sort of point of view.
So enough with the Nahas worship. Let's move on to other news. I got my soapbox done. Gonna step off of it. Let's roll forward here. So the next piece of pro news that hurts my soul to report is that YouPorn is now sponsoring an esports team. So they announced a couple of days ago, it came out on Reddit and on their blog site, that they are buying a team called Play to Win, and it's made up of the players Ragabash, Lulquap, Solmir, Laliat91, and Mengyu. Who are these guys? Like, I've heard of Ragabash in some circles as kind of a pub star, but I haven't seen Play to Win in a lot of tournaments, and you gotta wonder, is this just another publicity stunt by YouPorn, or are they actually going to pour some money into this and try to make this Dota 2 team into something functional? I mean, when I read the article the first time, I actually thought that it was an Onion or an Esex article from Hotbit because it was just so ludicrous. And they misspelled things. They called Dota 2 the Warcraft mod. Like, it was just bad. And they edited all of that later, but that's how terrible the release was. So do you think this is going to be a serious team, or do you think this is just, hey, a chance to get on the front page of Reddit?
I think that YouPorn is obviously pulling a publicity stunt. I think it's a good publicity stunt to pull. And I do know that the way that they're running this team is that there's going to be a period of time that this team is on probation, basically, making sure that they're contributing, making sure that YouPorn doesn't run into sort of an e-hug situation where they get a team together and the team dissipates almost immediately,
right,
and then they have substandard performance. So I do know that there is going to be a probationary period for these players, whom I don't know whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But I think part of the reason we don't know them is because they're at the level that they would be doing the equivalent of something like SIVO or
right,
the professional division of 82L,
right,
you know, maybe semi-pro evening cup series, and they're Spanish. So they're doing
right,
all of the European versions of those tournaments. So of course you and I haven't heard of them. They're
right,
not professional team, and they're from Spain.
That makes sense.
I think it's really good. The more sponsors that want to get esports, the better. And I think I've heard rumors that YouPorn is actually going to be getting a second squad as well, potentially.
Interesting.
So keep your eyes out for that. News may be breaking based on the rumor mill that they may be getting deeper into the scene even than this.
So it'll be interesting to see how it develops. I think when you read the blog, they phrase it well, and it says that adult entertainment and games have been sort of the chocolate and peanut butter of the internet for as long as they can remember. It was early formats of adoption in terms of like DVD or Blu-ray on the original video game systems were often attributed to how adult entertainment was being released at the time. So these things go hand in hand. The question that I think we're all going to have to ask, and we'll kind of keep an eye on as we move forward, is how does this apply to the sponsors and the big tournaments? Do you think that this is going to have a negative effect, or is this team going to have trouble with the big tournament features? I mean, if we're talking about ESPN 2 or 3 covering the next TI, are they going to be okay with the guys in YouPorn jerseys walking out and sitting on the stage?
I very much doubt that a team of players that I've never heard of are going to get sponsored by a company that doesn't know anything about the game and then walk into TI anytime soon. I think that these guys are going to be a sponsored team. Once again, I see this very similarly to the way I would see like Team eHug. They're going to be regional contenders, and they're going to work to try and get to that level. But I don't expect to see them at that level soon enough for the scene to really be in the same position as it is by the time somebody like Team YouPorn would hit a major tournament. We're probably going to see them in smaller tournaments. And for YouPorn, the investment is about visibility and not about winning, probably. Or they would have sunk the money into to get current pro players, right?
What we have there is Gorgon dodging the actual hypothetical question, which is fine. But actually, Psyched Out, who's a fan of the show, just wrote over on Twitch chat that he works for a major Scandinavian newspaper, and the editors have already expressed concern about YouPorn sponsorship coverage and things of that nature. So, hypothetically, though, I mean, the idea is they're coming in low, right? Like a lot of sponsors, when they enter the game, they buy small teams, they get their foot in the door, they figure out how it works, and then they become investors in larger teams. And I guess that's the question, is not will this Spanish team make it to TI5? It's if YouPorn goes, hey, this is good, man, let's throw some money at some bigger teams, and they say, Team Tinker, we want you to run the YouPorn logo, you know, is Valve, are the big companies, are the big sponsors going to be okay with that? And then are you going to see Air Force Reserve or some of the larger groups like T-Mobile pull their sponsorships in an event if a team in it is wearing a pornographic logo? Does that make sense?
I don't think that most of the sponsors that are going to tournaments would pull their sponsorship simply because one of the teams is YouPorn, any more than Logitech is going to pull their sponsorship from a tournament because one of their competitors has a team in it. Right? It's not good for Razer to go into a tournament that is sponsored by NVIDIA or something like that. But they work together in those tournaments all the time, even though they're literally competing for the same viewers in this case and competing to be effective. I don't see, as long as their logo is not going to be pornographic.
But
they're
I
not
know,
going
you
to
know what
ever
I'm saying.
show porn. They're
Right.
going to have YP in their team name.
Yeah,
And,
that's fair. I mean, I guess,
you know?
and we'll see how it goes. I think it's development to watch. I think my bigger worry is, I sometimes sit down and watch Dota on my TV for the big events with family members who are in the room, and I feel like it'd be uncomfortable if my mom was visiting, or even my wife sitting there, to be like, "Is that a team sponsored by what's YouPorn?" Or what's Team YP? And I just don't want to explain it, and I don't know if that's going to affect ESPN contracts or not. But we'll see.
I would kind of see it as comparable to having something like a team called the Redskins. What like?
Oh, amen to that. Amen. I'm not going to take
So-
a side. I'm not going to take a side. But you can say what you want to say.
All I'm saying is that that is
Yeah.
a team name that is bad publicity. It is very
True.
offensive to a large group of people who are outside of the team's hometown, and you still see them running. If they performed well, they would be on in every home once a year.
Absolutely.
So
That makes sense.
I don't really think that the team name is going to stop them, and I also don't think that a company like YouPorn will have any interest in getting a bigger team, because
Right.
once again, they're not a tech company. So for them, it's all about visibility. It's all about the publicity, and as long as their team is being visible, it doesn't matter if they're going to Star Series. It doesn't matter if they're going to TI. As long as they're playing regularly, streaming regularly, and getting people to come in and look at the team, even for the novelty factor, YouPorn is winning, and so are those
Right.
players. So I don't see an issue with it.
Excellent. All right, so next topic up. Let's roll through this. Just a quick update, guys. We're done with the pro news, and before we move to the tournament roundup, we do want to mention yesterday, just for those of you who may not be aware, if you tried to play Dota for about an hour, it was impossible. In fact, all of your Valve access was denied. That was not Valve's fault. That was a DDoS attack, a denied distribution of service from a Twitter group, basically, who likes to do this sort of thing. They've hit Xbox Live in the last week, or I think it was earlier this week, there's Xbox Live. They hit Riot, they hit Steam. They're just doing it to show their power, and because they also sell the ability to do DDoSs. I'm not going to give their name, and I'm not going to talk about them.
They're like a poor man's anonymous, right?
Yeah, I mean, something like that, I guess. But we don't want to talk too much about them. I just want you guys to know that
I'm sure Valve is working on it too.
yeah, Valve is working hard, and I think they fought off the attack as best as they could. It was massive, but if you couldn't play yesterday, if you had lag issues, don't be mad at Valve. Be mad at the hacker team, because Valve couldn't do anything about it. The attack was insanely large and very well coordinated. So that was the reason for the issues with Steam yesterday, and we'll leave it at that. If you want to go do research, you can. It's all over Reddit, all over the internet right now. I just don't want to give credit or potential business drives. All right, so moving on to the tournament roundup, which is the next big thing. We're going to talk briefly about the Summit, then we're going to talk about the KDL, moving on to MLG, and finishing with Dota Pit. So first one up, the group stage, quotes unquotes, because it's sort of like a group stage after a group stage of the Summit has wrapped up. The last 2 days were a round robin between all the teams there. They each played each other once. Cloud9 and Team Secret come out on top with 4-1 records each. And those two will advance to the semifinals later this week of the Summit. VG and Evil Geniuses, not today, and Team Tinker will play in a single elimination best of 5 to get to the other two semifinal spots. Now, biggest surprise I felt like, or there were two big surprises for me in terms of records. EG came out at 2-3, which was a little bit shocking to me. But the big one was Team Tinker at 1-4. Like, they only won one game. Were you surprised by the outcomes of this, or was this pretty much what you expected, Gorgon?
It's just I feel like at a tournament this small and intimate, obviously somebody has to come down on
That is true.
bottom and somebody has to come out on top. This is very, very steep competition. We're talking the top 3 teams in the world, all of whom are ELO bouncing between number 1 and have been for about a month and a half. Secret, VG, and EG. Obviously, somebody is going to come out of that a little bit lower. In terms of the overall performance as of late, I would say Tinker is probably the most expectable to come out in that like 1-4 or no wins situation. Cloud9 is actually, despite all the flack they get, a very, very strong team, and I think they're ranked like number 5 in the world right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Something like that. It's if they were able to win every game that they had a 95% win expectancy rate or better,
Yeah.
they would be the world's number 1 team.
Absolutely.
Honestly, they lose a lot of games. They just have trouble sealing the deal in a lot of
Sealing the
cases.
deal. And I guess you could argue that for teams that have a hard time winning the big LAN events, this sort of summit deal would be perfect for them because it's a different kind of LAN that might appeal to them. A little bit more personal, a little bit more functional. Your hands aren't getting cold on a big stage.
It's like the Neverland of esports.
It
right?
is
It's
the
like
Neverland.
what esports is in its heart, but not
Right.
in the business sense.
It's absolutely true, right? And there's moments where, like, I was sitting on the couch watching the game with my wife last night, the final game, and she was like, "This is kind of amateur." And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I don't know. It's just it's not what I'm used to with like the casting and stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, it's very different than what a normal system looks like." And I think the first time around it was very confusing for me, but it starts to grow on you a little bit. The conversational tone that the casters take, the relaxed system of play. That said, it's $300,000 on the line. They cracked that mark, by the way, so it's still one of the bigger tournaments of the year. That said, games today, it's going to be kicked off with EG versus... They're going to be playing Not Today, and then after that will be followed VG versus Team Tinker. Yeah, that's right. So those are the lineups to kind of get the day started. We'll talk about those games a little bit later, but just so that you know that's what's going on with the Summit. I made a comment on Twitter that I think is sort of entertaining, that maybe this was PPD's plan all along. The guys who made the semifinals have to sit for 2 days, right, and watch everyone else play. And EG was like, we want to stay warm. We don't want to show any of our strategies. So all they have to do now is basically win one best of 5 against a team, arguably Not Today, that they should beat without even trying to pocket strat. And then they get to go into the semifinals having revealed nothing and having... kept themselves warm and playing. So maybe knowing PPD and the mind and the way that it works, I wouldn't be surprised if that was their mindset, to be completely honest with you.
If Not Today can win this match today, right now, even if they do nothing else for the rest of the tournament, they will have completely changed their reputation in the Dota scene. This is a very big moment for them. It's going to be a really long time before they have the opportunity to play against a team like EG with such a viewership, with so much interest again.
Yeah.
And
Well,
everybody's expecting them to lose. So if they could come out with anything, everything they have, any pocket strat they've been working on ever. And
so are you saying take a game or take the whole thing? Because if they take the whole thing...
If they take the best of 5 series from
Jesus. I mean, it'd be wonderful
that,
to see
it
for
would
them.
be
If they can do it, it'd be huge. It's a single elimination. So if they do that, EG's out of the tournament, and Not Today gets to say, hey, top 4 money. But that is a very tall order at a best of 5. If this was a best of 3... I think that Not Today had a good chance because I think that they could formulate strats specifically to deal with evil geniuses. The problem that I see is because of the way it's structured, they have one best of 5 today, right? So EG, Not Today, only play each other today. Tomorrow is a different story, but today it's just them, which means that all last night, all morning today, these two teams are going to be thinking about nothing but how to beat the other team. And that takes away some of the upside, I think, that Not Today has in these tournaments, because when they go to tournaments, generally, I feel like a lot of the teams don't prep as hard for them because they're an unknown. Does that make sense?
Yeah, some of the Not Today members also don't speak English, I believe.
Yeah.
I think they're pure Spanish speakers. So I don't know. I feel like Not Today have the advantage in the terms that they don't have the advantage in terms of win expectancy.
Right.
But they do have the advantage in that EG is probably playing Mario Kart or something. You know
That's
what I mean?
true. That's a
Whereas
great
Not
point.
Today, they're going to be focusing down, I would expect, on really trying to make this happen.
That's true.
I'm not saying it's very likely. I expect EG to win, but if Not Today can pull out a victory, it will be huge for their region. It will be huge for the team. It will completely change the script for all of the way the Dota views South America, quite honestly.
Absolutely.
That one game, it's not even a finals game, but that one series, but it could be big for not only Not Today, but teams like Union Gaming and other squads that are going to be coming out of that region and trying to demonstrate that they can at least occasionally go toe-to-toe with the big dogs.
So that's the Summit, guys. If you want to catch coverage, by the way, of those two games today, you can go to Mixlr.com. That's patreon.com/DotaFM if you're stuck at work or commuting or wherever. And we will have live coverage of the 2 Summit games today. So go check those out. That way you can at least listen live, because coming home and watching 2 best of 5s on VODs before going to bed after putting the kids down and eating dinner could be a pretty tall order. So that's one of the reasons that we started running this thing. So that's the Summit. Next one up is a quick update on the KDL. That's Korean Dota League. I know a lot of folks who listen are not SEA fans, but I think it's important that we look at all the scenes. And the big news there is that MVP Phoenix has entered the finals. They will be joining Rave, Pokerface, and Team Zephyr to the playoffs on December 7th of the KDL. So KDL, one of those large SEA scene tournaments that's been around for a long time. MVP Phoenix, I think, has been having a very tough go of things over the last year. They haven't been in the news a lot. They haven't really been performing to, I think, what they can actually do. And they did well. They came up, they performed, and they got themselves into the finals. So kudos to them. Definitely deserves a mention. Not much more I can say about the KDL, though I can assure you that I will definitely be giving you the update on December 7th. Here's a big one that just was announced. Join Dota League, which has sort of been a community league with, a tier 1 that was sort of played by the big dogs, but was sort of pushed off because the prize pool wasn't quite the biggest. Well, they've signed with MLG Major League Gaming and announced yesterday that Join Dota and MLG will partner to to put on a tournament basically that will result in $475,000 in cash prizes. So with travel included, it'll be about $565 in the pool, but $475,000 in cash prizes. This is a huge announcement. A, MLG's back in the scene. B, Join Dota League is now going to be I don't want to say Star Ladder of the West, but Star Ladder of Western Europe? I don't even know how to say that, but essentially it's the same sort of design, right? Like, it's going to be a laddered system that leads you to a tier 1 with a massive prize pool. Do you know a lot of details about this working for Join Dota, or is it still sort of in the air for you guys as well?
Well, I've talked to it a little bit with Malstrix, the editor-in-chief, because we were dealing with this news and how to get this news out alongside trying to do the end-of-the-year awards, which are a tremendous amount of work, especially for the senior writers, the elder staff, and the editor-in-chief, who basically construct the bulk of those lists. Yeah, this is obviously a really big tournament. It's really big news. If you don't play in JDL, you should be playing in JDL at this point. And JDL is where I personally got a lot of my casting experience that kind of got me onto the bigger things like the international qualifiers and stuff. So for me, it's really nice to see the tournament kind of blossoming because I've been with it since season 1 and really hitting the ground hard, doing a lot of JDL coverage that, people kind of thought sometimes the tournament was fizzling off, and I'm glad to see that the guys from Freaks for You are really sticking to it and finding good partnerships to make it happen. I don't think there are too many details that I'm supposed to release right now, but just keep your eye on the tournament because it's going to be a really big tournament. It's going to be a really fun tournament, and now everybody knows why Toby hasn't been casting so much.
Right? Yeah, they definitely need the big name. Support it because we want to see MLG stick in the scene. They left because of whatever issues that they were having. They're back.
Too many tournaments is what they left, and this putting in a bigger prize pool and getting an established name are hopefully really strong solutions to that problem.
And honestly, guys, this is something where we've talked about it before, and we're not going to go into it today. I might plan an actual show where I bring in some guests to talk about it, but oversaturation of tournaments is a real issue, and we have to mentally, consciously choose which tournaments we want to support, because at the end of the day, the scene is going to collapse under the weight, just like StarCraft 2 sort of did for a while. There's just too much, and if we can't watch all of them and love all of them and have them all exist because there's just not enough time. So eventually we're going to have the sort of breakdown of which tournaments stick and which ones fall apart. So if there's a tournament you love or an organization you want to see run tournaments like MLG, then make sure that you're buying the ticket or just being there on the stream and letting them know this is the tournament that we want, not the tournament that we're stuck with. So
yeah, not just that, but honestly, consider writing emails to sponsors. If you like a tournament, write an email to a sponsor and say, hey, I really like this tournament. I really like the fact that you sponsor it. I noticed the fact that you sponsor it. And if you have ever bought something from that sponsor, mention, and because you sponsored this tournament, I went out and when I had a choice between you and a competitor, I chose you. That will go a long way if, 10,000 Dota fans all say to a sponsor of StarLadder or whatever it is, I bought something because you sponsored this tournament that I like. That is a very good indicator to those sponsors that even if viewership wanes because there are so many tournaments available, that people are still noticing the sponsorship. And likewise, if there's a tournament that's unsponsored right now, write to sponsors that sponsor esports stuff and say, I really like the AD2L, I really like SIVO, I really like Semi-Pro Cup Series, I really like X tournament that's kind of small, and you should think about partnering with them because people in the community would notice. Whatever it is, so just think about it. I just wanted to put that out there because not a lot of people think that they can do something to impact the way sponsors see the scene. You really can. It's called writing a letter.
Sort of like write a letter to your senator. Same idea. So
except much more effective.
Well, absolutely. So it's going to be a big tournament. I think it's good. The one thing that I think we need to keep an eye out for is, I don't know what the details are going to be or what JD is going to do with it, but there have been organizations and groups and independent casters alone that have really started to try to work their way onto the scene, kind of like you said you got your start with the Join Dota League. Because their system right now is very open. If you want to cast the Tier 2 or the Tier 3 groups, you can. It's just sign up, get your channel registered, and cast the games. In fact, Hefla TV has made a studio, basically, out of covering it. Now, rumors that are coming out, and I don't know if they're confirmed or not, is that because of this contract, all 3 tiers are going to be going JD exclusive. And some of those new studios, some of those casters who kind of made their name just covering JD games or JDL games are not going to be allowed to cast anymore. So that's not confirmed. It's not coming from Gorgon. I've heard it from a few sources in different places coming from both sides. So I, on the show, just want to go on record encouraging the guys at Join Dota to continue to make Join Dota League accessible to the community the way that you have for so long, because that means a lot to us, the guys who are out here doing independent work. It's a chance for us to get some work in and maybe get noticed, and I think that that's an important thing within the scene. So if you're thinking about taking it away, please don't, and if you aren't, thank you for keeping it. That's all. I'm going to throw that public service announcement out there.
Can I just throw out a quick public service announcement of my own, guys? If you're thinking about getting into casting and you want to cast these bigger tournaments, you can't do it on ticket, but you can cast any tournament legally. Once it's in Dota TV, it is public access, or anybody is allowed to do anything they want with it. That is in the user end agreement that Valve puts out. So even if tournaments try to shut you down, even if tournaments say that you're not allowed to do this because you're pulling their numbers away, you are. You're allowed to go into a tournament with the ticket that you've bought and cast to your Twitch account and publicize
that's
it
true, but
it's not the same thing.
Twitch has made it clear, though, that they will shut streams down because you're not protected under Twitch law. So
That's
Twitch
true,
has the right to shut it down.
You can go to.
So I know StarLadder and Dota Pit, for instance, have shut down streams. And this is just a fair warning for you guys trying to break into it, of people casting those tournaments. Even though they're protected by Valve, Twitch has said, well, we have partnerships with these tournaments and we don't want they don't want this to happen, so we're not going to allow it to happen. So do be aware of which tournaments you're doing that for, because it's becoming more of an issue on the Twitch side. And yes, you're protected by Valve. If you want, by the way, if you want to get into casting, contact us at 5 Midas Gaming, because we're looking for some casters for the Dota FM thing. So we'll throw a little plug out there.
That's how a lot of people have gotten started, though. That's how people like me and Toffees got started to a certain degree. That's how people like Sheever got started. Just cast games that you're interested in. And if you can't cast them on Twitch, cast them on Daily Motion or something like that. There are other, or Hitbox, there are other resources available.
Exactly. I just wanted to give you guys be aware on Twitch, because they have been cracking down for whatever reason. I don't think it's fair, but it's what they're doing. And it is what it is. So that's the MLG announcement. Let's roll over to Dota Pit so we can get this thing wrapped up. Dota Pit is moving forward into the playoffs. Group B top teams are Secret, Cloud9, VP Polar, Denial. Group A top teams are EG, Virtus Pro, Team Tinker, and Complexity, who's played all 14 of their games and has come out with the highest point total. So they will be advancing in the 4, which is actually pretty cool to see. That means they edged out Alliance, 4 Anchors, M5, and PR.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
that's awesome.
I'm really excited to see Complexity doing as well as they are.
Absolutely. They've been, and now these are guys who work their butts off. They were on the show. You can go back and listen to a previous podcast. We did an interview with Complexity, and my mind was blown at how serious they take it and how hard they wanted to work to become a Tier 1 team. And Dota Pit shows that they're on their way to doing that. So a big shout out to the Complexity guys who've been working their butts off to make that happen. And that's the Dota Pit. So that tournament's coming up down the line. Will be very, very good. I think their finals take place after Beyond the Summit, so during that sort of Christmas break period, and it should be a lot of fun to watch. So we plan on covering that on Dota FM as well, to the same capacity that we've been covering the Summit, but we'll have more details as things go forward. So we'll wrap up with our picks of the day, Gorgon. Is there a game that you think is the one to watch today?
Well, if I had to pick a game for today, I guess I would have to go with VG versus Team Tinker. And I would say you probably want to listen to that on Dota FM rather than watching it because, it's the middle of the day. It comes out. It's going to be going live sometime around 5:45 p.m. in the East Coast. You might be coming home from work. You might be at work. That's a really good game series that you're not going to want to miss a moment of. So, just to plug it one more time, mixler.com/DotaFM. This is where you can listen to that game, and it should be a very, very good one. Or
Absolutely.
Best of 5 series, I guess is what I should say.
And then on a side note with that, guys, it's not just that we're picking games to plug what Dota FM's covering. There's not a lot of games today. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like, plus a small one that's starting in about 8 minutes. So not a lot of games. The one that I want to see, I think you're right. I think that the biggest game of the day is going to be Team Tinker versus VG because Team Tinker had some bad results in the group play that put them at the bottom to play VG, but they're better than they're rated right now on that stack list.
For sure.
So VG and Team Tinker, if you look at like the Gozu numbers, they're sitting at 78 and 22. I think that their betting site is a little bit higher than that, but it's still a pretty big differential. I don't believe that. I think that this split's way more of a 55-45, maybe a 60-40. In favor of VG.
I would say probably like 65-35, honestly. Because VG, they're just such a good team.
Yeah, VG's phenomenal.
They're almost unstoppable. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are really good. Not that Team Tinker isn't an amazing team.
Right.
But
if you're looking for a betting site upset potential, beside the fact that it's a best of 5, this is going to be the one to bet on. That said, I am interested to see Not Today versus EG because I firmly believe that Not Today came to this tournament with pocket strats ready to go. And I don't think that they used them in the group stage because they knew that it's not the beneficial place to do it. So I think that Not Today is going to come into this EG game with all guns firing, a chance to, as Gorgon said, prove themselves in the scene. If they do this, it doesn't matter how they move past the semifinals. This would be a huge upset and register them as a top team in their region as well as the world. So expect them to come out looking for a 3-0 or a 4-1 and to have some pretty interesting strats put together. That's what I'm expecting from them. I think EG will win, but I think that Not Today will put up a good fight. And that's in 5 hours. So that one will start up at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, I think.
It'll be 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And that will also be on Dota FM, so check that one out as well. Guys, just to be clear, for those of you who don't know, Dota FM is a project that was launched by myself. Coffee with Toffees was always intended to be a radio show, and the fact that we now have a radio station to do it on is exciting. And Gorgon the Wonder Cow, who is always stopping by the show, has always been working. We've been working together for almost a year now, I think.
Jesus Christ, has it been that long?
It has been that long. Is also on the board, so he's the COO. He does the operations for us. So yeah, you get the plugs, but that's because we're trying to launch this thing as a benefit to all the listeners out there. And honestly, it's been a great reception. We've had over 1,000 unique viewers stop by in the last 2 days. We've carried viewer counts of between 50 and 70 per game. So it's enough to get us to say, hey, there's a market for it. We're going to go forward with this. We're still in the soft launch phase, so if you have suggestions or ideas, let us know. If you're interested in casting for us, send us some demos. You can find the information over on Mixler, or you can just email me at 5MidasGaming on Gmail or thedotafm@gmail.com. Either one is more than welcome. We want to hear from you, whether it's feedback or anything at all. So get in touch with us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. The actual launch is going to be coming out in January. We're aiming for the 2nd, and we're working on the website as well. So we'll have all the real, legitimate, cool-looking stuff by January. But if you want to support it, check out the stream. So any last words before we sign out for the day?
I just want to encourage everybody who is a Dota fan to think about swinging by Amateur Dota 2, that's numeral 2 league.com, and sign up for my new tournament coming up a week from this weekend. The weekend after the summit, it is an all random deathmatch open registration tournament. I'm putting up $25, my own money. We got $25 coming from Amateur Dota 2 League for a $50 prize pool, one-time single elimination tournament. Shouldn't be a huge time commitment. Should be a lot of fun. We've got Action Slacks coming in to cast, Nahas.
Nice.
Toffees is actually coming in himself, and I'll be casting as well. We'll probably be covering that on our Dota FM as well with some of our other casters. It's going to be a big, heck of fun event. So think about signing up if you got a team of 5. If you don't have a team of 5, we can set you up with the team on AmateurDota2League.com. And think about swinging by and watching that as well, because for all things said and done, there aren't any ARDM tournaments. It's an extremely fun mode, and it should be a lot of laughs.
My only regret about casting is I can't play in it. But so it's going to be a lot of fun. Check it out, guys. You can find Gorgon at GotCowDota over on Twitter. Give him a shout out. If you like having him by, let him know that you liked him stopping by the show and you should do it more often. My name's Toffees. You can find me at Toffees_Dota2. If you want to support this or Dota FM, you can go to patreon.com/Toffees. That's patreon.com/Toffees. And if you want to join the chat on Steam, it's coffee.w/Toffees to join up, chat with us. You can talk to me, you can talk to the producer, you can kind of give us ideas for news stories or interviews and get involved. So guys, it's been great having you here. Thank you for joining us for the show. As always, it was a little bit of ended up being longer than I thought it would be, but some really good insight, I think, from Gorgon. We're going to play some music for you on Dota FM going forward. For those of you on Twitch, thanks for stopping by. And for those of you listening on the podcast and the RSS, thank you so very much. Have a great day playing more Dota, and as always, Toffees out.